welcome back to Logan's Voice. I'm Doug Ballinger, Logan's dad, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with me today. If you're a regular listener, you already know this podcast isn't just about fentanyl awareness or grief support. It's about humanity, it's about connection, and it's about love. Today's topic is simple in words, but profound in practice: loving one another, why we should, and how we need to do it. Now, I know when some people hear love one another, they think of something soft, maybe even weak, like it's just about being nice or smiling at strangers or posting inspirational quotes. But the kind of love I'm talking about, the kind this world so desperately needs, isn't soft, isn't strong, it's gritty, it's often inconvenient, and it's real. Loving one another means showing up when it's messy. It means seeing past someone's addiction, their mistakes, their pain, and choosing to stay. And it's personal for me because I believe if we had lived in a world that truly knew how to love people in the middle of their struggle, Logan might still be here. I've learned a lot in the time since I lost Logan, and one of the biggest lessons is this: love isn't just what we feel, it's what we do. So today, we're going to break it down. Why loving one another actually matters, even when it's hard, what gets in the way of doing it, and how we can build a world that chooses compassion over condemnation, one conversation, one act, one person at a time. If you've ever felt judged, misunderstood, or invisible, you're not alone. If you've ever tried to love someone through addiction or mental illness, I see you. Let's talk about what it means to love better. Let's talk about why it matters more than ever. Let's talk about loving one another. And let's talk about why this matters. Why love, not judgment, not blame, and not punishment, has to be the foundation for how we move through this world. Because here's the truth: people are hurting quietly, privately, constantly. And often, the very thing they're missing, the thing they don't even know how to ask for, is love. We live in a society that praises toughness and self reliance, perfection. And what that does, it teaches people to hide their pain, to mask their trauma, to feel ashamed of needing help. When Logan was struggling, he didn't need lectures, he didn't need labels, he didn't need to be told what was wrong with him. What he needed was love that could hold space for his pain. Love that could say, "You're not broken beyond repair." Love that didn't flinch when things got hard. But too often, people struggling with addiction or mental illness get the opposite of love. They get shame, they get dismissed, and they get written off. But here's where that leads: isolation, silence, and death. Let's be clear. People don't overdose because they don't care about life. They overdose because they don't feel worthy of living. And that's why love matters, because love restores worth. It tells someone you matter, not because of what you do or how well you're doing, but simply because you're here. I've met so many parents who've lost children to fentanyl poisoning, and we all say the same thing: I wish I'd have known what they were really feeling. I wish I'd have asked more questions. I wish they had known how deeply they were loved. We can't go back and undo the past, but we can build a world where fewer people are dying feeling unloved. And not just people using substances, I mean their families too. The parents, the siblings, the partners who feel invisible in their grief, the ones who are told to move on or just stop talking about it, or "Aren't you over that yet?" Ooh, those things make me so angry. Loving one another means seeing them too. It means making room for messy stories, imperfect endings, and quiet survivors. It means holding space for people whose grief doesn't fit in a sympathy card. Because love says, you still belong, you're not too much, and you are not alone. And I'll tell you something I've learned in advocacy work and grief support. It's not a big sweeping gestures that change lives. It's the small things done with big love. A text that says, "Hey, just checking on you." A moment to sit without fixing. A willingness to sit beside someone in their pain instead of trying to pull them out of it. That's the kind of love that saves people. That's the kind of love that honors those we've lost. And that's the kind of love we all need now more than ever. So, if love is so important, if it literally has the power to heal and to connect and to even save lives, why is it still so rare? Why don't we love more freely? Why don't we say the words more often or show up more consistently or give people the benefit of the doubt? I think a big part of the answer is this: fear. We're afraid. Afraid we'll get hurt, afraid we'll say the wrong thing, or afraid we'll be seen as weak or too emotional or maybe even taken advantage of. We build walls around ourselves not because we don't care, but because we care so much it scares us. Because loving people means opening ourselves to loss. And for some of us, we've already lost so much. Another barrier is judgment. We're conditioned to size people up, to look at someone's choices, their circumstances, their struggles, and make snap assumptions. She did this to herself. If he really wanted to help, he'd get it. They must not care about their family. We judge because it gives us distance. It lets us feel like that could never happen to us. It protects our illusion of control. But here's the truth I've learned the hard way. You can love your child with everything you've got. You can support them, guide them, fight for them, and addiction can still take them. No one is immune. And when we start from that place of humility, of shared vulnerability, that's when judgment starts to fade. That's where love has room to grow. And another big barrier, stigma. Stigma silences us. It makes people hide their truth, whether they're using substances, living with mental illness, or grieving someone who died from an overdose. Stigma tells us, keep quiet. Don't share that. People won't understand. And when we stay silent, shame thrives. I can't tell you how many people I've met, moms, dads, siblings, friends, who've carried this enormous grief alone because they were afraid of being judged or how their loved one is judged for the way they died. That's why I say their names. That's why I tell Logan's story, because silence doesn't protect anyone. But love can tear that silence wide open. There's one more barrier I want to name: busyness. We live in a fast, noisy world. We scroll, we skim, we multitask, and somewhere along the way, we forget to see each other. We forget to slow down long enough to ask, "Hey, are you okay? What do you need? Can I love you better today?" Loving one another takes time. It takes presence and it takes intention. And sometimes we're just too distracted or too overwhelmed ourselves to give any of that. So I want to say this to anyone listening who feels like you've fallen short. You're not a bad person because you've missed opportunities to love. You're human. We all are. But the good news is every day is a new chance. Every conversation is a fresh start. Every moment is an opportunity to choose love over fear, over judgment, and over distraction. We can't change the world overnight, but we can start with our world, the people we interact with, the energy we bring, the way we show up. And it begins, as always, with love. So we talked about why love matters and we talked about what gets in the way of love. Now let's talk about how we can actually do it, how we can turn love into action. Because it's not just a feeling, it's a choice, a daily choice. Love in action doesn't always look like some grand dramatic gesture. More often it looks like the small, steady, quiet things, the things that don't get headlines or applause, but can change someone's life. It starts with presence, just being there consistently, quietly, without trying to fix or control. I learned this the hard way. There were moments when Logan didn't need a lecture or a consequence or even a plan. He just needed someone to sit next to him in the mess and say, I see you. I'm not going anywhere. Love in action says, I can't carry this for you, but I'll walk with you while you carry it. Love in action listens, not to reply, not to correct, but just to understand. We don't always need to have the right words. Sometimes the most loving thing we can say is, I'm here. Tell me what this feels like for you. Because when people feel truly heard, they start to believe that they matter. And that changes everything. Love in action humanizes. It calls people by name. It refuses to define someone by their lowest moment. It says, you are more than your addiction. You are more than your past. You are more than what happened to you. That's something I try to do every time I talk about Logan. He wasn't just a fentanyl death. He was my son. He was smart, funny, complicated, and beautiful. When we tell these stories with humanity, we open the door for compassion, and compassion is contagious. Love in action shows up at funerals, at rallies, at recovery meetings, in comment sections, in hospitals, courtrooms, and at vigils. Sometimes just standing beside someone, or behind someone, or even in front of them when they can't stand on their own. That is love. At Hope Movement events, I've seen this again and again. Grieving parents holding each other up. Strangers becoming friends because of one shared story. People driving hours just to say you're not alone. That's love, and it's holy. Love in action gets uncomfortable. It tells the truth even when it's hard. It sets boundaries when needed. It doesn't enable, but it doesn't abandon either. It says, I'm going to love you enough to tell you this isn't safe. I'm going to love you enough to keep showing up even when you push me away. That kind of love isn't easy, but it's the kind that reaches people when nothing else can. Love in action forgives, and that includes forgiving ourselves. I've had to do that a lot since losing Logan, forgiving myself for what I didn't know, for what I didn't see, for the mistakes I made while trying to do my best. And I know I'm not alone. So if you're holding on to guilt, shame, or the constant what ifs, please hear this. You loved them, and you still do. Forgiveness is a form of love, and you deserve that too. And finally, love in action creates space. Space for people to fall apart, space for people to be themselves, and space for people to grow, change, and try again. When we lead with love, we build bridges, not walls, and we give people permission to heal. You don't need a platform or a podcast or a nonprofit to love people well. You just need a willingness to care and to show it. And with your time, your words, your silence, your hands, and your heart. And when you love like that, you don't just make a difference, you become the difference. You know, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what it means to love someone, especially loving someone through addiction, and even more time thinking about what it means to love someone after they're gone. When Logan died, everything in my world split wide open. There is life before May 19th of 2020, and then everything after. And nothing's ever really been the same. But the love I had for him, that didn't die with him. That didn't go away. It didn't shrink. If anything, it got louder. And I had to figure out where to put it. Because when you lose a child, you still wake up with all this love, but nowhere to send it. No one to hug. No one to text good night. No one that's going to tell you, I'm okay, Dad. I think that's what so many grieving parents struggle with and what we do with all that love. And that's how this podcast was born. That's how Logan's story was written. That's how Hope Movement became more than just a name to me. It became a calling because I need to turn my pain into purpose. And I needed to find people who understood that grief is just love with nowhere to go. There are times when I felt like I failed Logan, times I look back and wondered if I missed a sign, if I should have said more or said less, if I could have protected him from the choices, the people, the poison that took him from me. But what I've come to understand is that love doesn't mean control. It doesn't mean perfection. It means presence. And I was present every step of the way. I was there when he fell. I was there when he tried again. I was there when he lied to cover the pain he didn't know how to name. I was there when he washed out of rehab and when he climbed his way back up again. I was there even when he pushed me away. And what love does, it doesn't always fix things. It doesn't always get the happy ending, but it shows up anyway. Losing Logan shattered me, but it also opened my heart in a way I didn't expect. Because when you lose someone you love that deeply, you start seeing everyone differently. You notice the people in society. You make eye contact with the person standing on the corner. You speak gently to the mom whose child is spiraling. You sit longer with people who are hurting, even when it's uncomfortable. Grief has made me softer. It's made me more patient. It's made me realize that we never really know what someone else is carrying. So why not just love them? Logan taught me more about love than anyone else in my life. He loved fiercely. He loved music. He loved fashion. And he loved his family. He had a deep heart and a beautiful spirit, even when it was buried under layers of pain. And even though he struggled, especially because he struggled, he deserved love. All our kids do. Not just when they're sober, not just when they're doing well, not just when they're following the rules, but when they're raw and hurting and messy and scared. That's when love matters most. So if you've lost someone like I have, if you're carrying grief that feels too heavy to name, please hear me when I say this. Your love for them didn't die. It still matters and it still counts. You can still use it. You can still turn it into something, a story, a mission, a conversation, just a random act of kindness. That's what I'm trying to do. Every episode, every event, every time I say his name, I am Logan's dad, and I love him still. That love didn't end. It just found a new voice. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there will hear that voice and know they're not alone. So now what? What do we do with all of this? If anything I've said today has stirred you, maybe a memory, maybe a regret, maybe just a quiet pull on your heart, don't let that feeling fade when this episode ends. Let it move you, let it change you, and let it turn into action. Because here's the truth. You don't have to fix the whole world. You don't have to start a podcast or write a book or speak on a stage, but you can love the person in front of you. You can check in on a friend who's struggling, or you can stop judging someone's story before you even know it. You can say someone's name, even if they're gone. You can comfort someone grieving without trying to rush their healing. You can choose kindness, even when you don't understand. You can tell someone, I'm proud of you, you matter, or you are loved. And if you're someone who's hurting today, someone living in the shadow of addiction or loss or silence, I want to say this. You do not have to earn love. You do not have to get it all together first. You are worthy of love exactly as you are, right now, in this moment. The world may have made you feel disposable, but you are not. And if no one's told you lately, let me be the one to say it. I see you, I believe in you, and I love you. This is the invitation I want to leave you with today. Choose love. Speak it, live it, and be it. Not just in words, but in action. Because loving one another isn't just something we say in times of tragedy or celebration. It needs to be a way of life. It's how we build a world where fewer people die feeling invisible. It's how we honor those we've lost. And it's how we keep going, even when our hearts are shattered. Thank you for listening to Logan's Voice. Please visit logansvoice.com to learn more about Logan's story. Grab a t-shirt from Logan's swag shop. And if this episode moved you, share it. If it reminded you of someone, send it to them. If it gave you hope, hold on to it. Let's make love louder than stigma. Let's make compassion louder than silence. I am Logan's dad. I am Logan's voice. And I will not be silent.